How are you?
You're not coach anymore.
I know.
You can't say that.
It's the joke. That's a good joke. Yeah.
You have to explain it to everyone.
Preseason still.
We'll start with live questions for Brad, please. Raise your hand.
Brad Stevens, guys. Missed
Rod Blakely.
everybody in person.
Coach, just speak to what this lead up to this day has been like for you. Obviously, in a very different role than we've seen you in the past, and just
Recording in progress.
What are some of the nuances to this new role that you've experienced as we come to this point?
Well, the first couple months were I'd say the most difficult part, right? With finishing the season, then right away the next morning, going right into this, getting ready, obviously hiring a coach, getting ready for the draft, getting ready for free agency, and all that goes with that, and all the change that we've incurred as a coaching staff, with the hiring of Ime and his staff, and then with a lot of roster turnover. And so when you say like coming into this day, the last couple of weeks have been a lot slower than usual for me. I have not worried one bit about a bad drill in practice. Haven't thought twice about any of that stuff because it's not my role. And so it's been the cadence of this work is a little bit different, and the phone rings a little bit more, but for the most part, this time of the year is, our team is out there, our team is our team, and we'll evaluate as we continue to go through the season and try to become the best version of ourselves.
Brad.
Next question, Jay King.
Sorry. Brad, you're obviously in a unique position where you were in charge of hiring your successor. What do you hope that he can change or improve about the team that you weren't able to do?
Yeah, I think every year, and we've talked about this before, every season's its own entity, every team's its own team. I think that, with this in particular team, I think that we have to rely on our competitiveness. We have a lot of defensive versatility. We've got a number of ways that we can play. And so, finding which of those ways is best is part of the challenge for Ime and his staff. But, I have great confidence that they'll do that. And then I think on the other end of the floor, on the offensive end of the floor is, how do we accentuate our best players? And that's not too dissimilar from any other season or any other year. We've been fortunate that, it's been a good run, but we have to improve if we want to get to where we want to go. And so, that's what we're focused on, and that's what we're going to try to do. And, we'll see how this team comes together over the course of the next few weeks, months, and go from there.
Next question, Jared Weiss.
Brad, you've brought in a lot of experienced veterans to compete for some of those last roster spots. That's a little bit of a departure from the past where you've the team has looked to bring in players that could have the chance to develop more and early in their career. So how important was it to try to get that sense of competition for guys that have experience and have played serious minutes in the NBA, and how that affects the rest of the roster?
Well, we're just trying to put together, a team that can really be, again, a team that Boston will appreciate and will play the right way with great teamness and great toughness. And, part of that is understanding what's coming at you. And so to have the opportunity to get a couple of guys that have been in those battles at different places, or in Ennis's case back in Boston, is really important. We still have a number of young guys, and if they earn their way up into great opportunities, and they earn their way up into great opportunities, that's beautiful. That's great. But we want to make sure that we're giving ourselves, again, a best chance to accentuate our best players, and give ourselves kind of multiple options, multiple avenues as a team to be good.
Next question, Abby Chin.
Okay, sorry, I was a little out of practice. Abby Chin, NBC Sports Boston. Brad, the breaking news about Ime not being in isolation the last 10 days. Can you tell us a little bit more or what you know about that situation and what it does to the start of all of this? I know they said he's expected to be ready to go for tomorrow, but to not have been around the guys in the facility. And then also having been in Japan for the Olympics and that kind of thing through the beginning of this process. And then also reports about the team not being as far as a high percentage of players who are vaccinated and the team's viewpoint on that.
Well, there's a lot of questions right there. Our hope is that we get, as close to 100% vaccinated as possible, as soon as possible. That's our hope. That's our desire. Obviously, we'll continue to work from our end on what we can do and work from an educational standpoint within the organization and do everything that we can. And at the same time, that's, everybody's got to make that decision for themselves. But I do think that with regard to Ime and his situation, I think Christian said it, he's been fairly asymptomatic for the last 10 days. Thankfully, he was vaccinated. And so, it hasn't hit him like it's obviously hit others that we read about all over the country. And I think that as far as missing time, and he's good at connecting with people. He'll do that over FaceTime, over text, over many different ways. I mean, he was working, at 2 a.m. in Tokyo, helping us to talk to free agents. Like he's been, even when he hasn't been there in person, he's been very invested every single minute. And so I'm not worried about that. That's an easy part. I'm very glad that his health is okay. I think that's the thing that when you talk about being fully vaccinated and you talk about, him getting it and, breakthrough cases or unvaccinated cases, the scariest part for me is just the health of everybody. People talk about games and talk about all the things that come with that throughout the course of the season. But, we've got hospitals that are overflowing and people are having to make decisions on who gets oxygen. It's a sad situation we're in as a world. And so like everybody else, I hope that gets improved quickly.
Final 2 questions. First from Mark Murphy.
Hi, Brad. Back to the fact that not all of your players are reportedly vaccinated. Your season opener is in a city that requires everybody to be vaccinated. How are you going to navigate this kind of thing? I mean, it can change from city to city.
Well, from everything that I know, and I don't know the exact rules in New York City with opposing teams, you guys might be able to say that better than me. But at the end of the day, we're going to do what I just said. We're going to work to educate everybody, and we hope to get as close to that as possible.
Last question, Gary Washburn.
Hey, Brad, we haven't talked to you since the acquisition of Hernan Gomez.
Mm-hmm.
What does he bring you? And you also have an open 2-way spot. And you're tinkering at the roster where you kind of do that during training camp and figure out, when guys are made way by other teams and kind of keep that flexibility?
We're very open to being flexible right now. Obviously we have that 2-way spot open, as you said. We're going to evaluate all the way through training camp, going to evaluate it all the way through the start of the year and see where we need to go from there. Again, to be the best version of ourselves, to be in the mix of where we want to be, right? And so we're going to get a lot of information over the next few weeks. With regard to Juancho, obviously, he's a guy with his size and his shooting ability and his cutting ability that we think could accentuate some of our better players. But, just like everybody else, we'll see how that all pans out. There's a lot of competition for spots. By adding, Richardson, Schroeder, Canner, those guys were all double-figure scorers last year. Like they're all, guys that have done it in the NBA at a high level for a long time. And so when you look at, just minutes, then it's going to be, again, who accentuates everybody that can bring those special traits to the table. But I think Juancho is an accentuator. I think that he has the capability of doing that. And I think one of his probably under-discussed great qualities is his cutting. And with all the attention that Jason and Jalen get specifically, the right time to cut's an important quality. And so that was, that's one of the many things that drew us to him. Go ahead.
Jalen, is he going to be ready for training?
We have one person tomorrow that is slightly limited for maybe one day, and that's Juwan Morgan with a minor hamstring that he should be good to go by end of the week. Everyone else will be cleared to fully practice.
Thank you very much, Brad.
Thank you.